And we have our next guest on, and her name is Tara Harris. I think I pronounced it correct. If I didn't, please correct me.
Yes,
And
you did. That's right.
okay, and welcome to Black Authors Matter TV. And I wanted to let you know that I have a copy of your book here. I
Oh,
did
beautiful.
not read it yet, but it came in my last batch of books that I ordered. So I
Perfect.
plan to dig into it. It's on my to be read shelf, which people who watch the show know is extensive. It's
Perfect.
ex-
Thank you.
it spills over, but I keep getting books because I love books, and so I will get to read it at some point. And then you have your previous book showing behind you. So tell us about this book, Long After We're Gone. And when did this come out? What was the release?
May 14th.
Okay, so it's been out about a month, not quite a month.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah, just
great.
about a month.
Okay.
Tell us about the
And
story.
mhm,
Okay.
yeah, tell us
I'm
what's in it.
sorry. Okay. So thank you so much for having me. It's a
You're
pleasure to
welcome.
be here.
You're welcome.
Long After We're Gone tells the story of four siblings, each grappling with their own individual struggles, who return home after their father dies to save their ancestral home and land from being sold out from underneath them.
Oh, okay. So the long after we're gone is that the siblings long after the siblings are gone, or is it long after their ancestors are gone? Or the
Long
rest.
after the end, this good question, very good question. Long after we're
Okay.
gone, it speaks to the ancestors that came before them. This
Okay.
is an intergenerational trauma story. And when you start this story, you start at the very beginning when the father, King, when he dies. And you kind of get a glimpse at the lives of these siblings before he dies. And it's really important to see what kind of life that they're living before he dies, because immediately you're catapulted into his death and how they have to grapple with his death and saving this ancestral land. But there's a lot of things they don't know about their father. They don't know what happened to their mother. They don't know their father's full story. And so as they start this fight of starting to save their land, they start to discover who he really was, who his mother really was, and that all their issues and problems that they have is tied to the people that came before them, which is why the book is called Long After We're Gone.
Okay. So
So,
is this a standalone book?
It is. It's a
Okay.
complete standalone book.
Okay.
okay, I was just going to ask, this it sounds like the story may kind of play with time a little bit to where you're in present time and then you do a little bit of flashback as well.
Yes. So that it's told through letters, through a series of letters, that I felt like that was the best medium to use versus jumping timelines. And so Toki, the youngest daughter, when they're cleaning out the house, they discover these series of letters that their mother Hazel wrote to their father King. And so they're able to kind of piece together their story, their mother and father story through these letters.
I just when you were talking about that, and then the previous guest, was it the previous guest or the ones before that talked about letters? Was the first guest. But anyway, it made me think uh about now, and when people now are trying to piece together the past, letters play an integral role in that. And I was thinking about now and in the future, since people don't write letters anymore,
Yeah.
what will the future people use to piece things together? Maybe their social media stuff.
Yeah, that's a very good question. You know, they're able to piece together their mother and father's story through their own words, but we don't have that now. We don't write letters anymore. I mean, and that we write emails maybe through text messages, maybe, but that's not something that you can discover. Like
No,
Toki discovered these letters. You can't discover
double
somebody's
text.
open cell phone with their
No,
text messages, pulled up. So
no.
yeah,
And
that
plus,
that is
that would be
that is
difficult.
lost.
Those are just really short, short communications. Letters really let you delve into the person's mind, their heart, and all of that.
Right.
So that's something to just think about for the future. If people in the future are going to be trying to, let's say 50 years from now, they're trying to piece together now, what will they use? It's
That's
just,
right. That's
something to
right.
think.
Hmm.
So, what led you to write this intergenerational story?
Oh, this is okay. So when I was writing my first book, One Summer in Savannah, which is, behind me, I wasn't sure what kind of writer I wanted to be yet. I was writing this story that is with this really hard topic, but and a topic that's rarely covered in fiction. It covers conception after a sexual assault. And right in the middle of writing that, I realized that's what I want to do. That's the niche that I wanted to tell, to kind of lean into. I wanted to highlight these unique stories that happen to people every day that either we don't know about or we don't talk enough about. And so I said, I'm going to wait for my next inspiration to come the same way that inspiration came for One Summer in Savannah. And it came in the form of a New Yorker article about these two brothers in North Carolina, Melvin Davis and McCurtis Reels. And their story is now being told in an amazing Amazon Prime documentary called Silver Dollar Road. But years prior to that documentary, there was an article in the New Yorker that was telling their story. And they are two brothers from North Carolina who went to jail for 8 years after they refused to leave the land that their great grandfather had purchased 100 years prior after it was sold out from underneath them. And I just remember reading that story and I was so frustrated and angry at not only what happened to them, but that I had never heard of the term air property before. And so I realized then that I had my next book idea and I wanted to kind of highlight and share some awareness to this problem, this issue that's happening in the Black community today.
So by air, you mean H-E-I-R, correct?
H-E-I-R, yes.
Yeah. Because at first I thought it was A-R, like Airbnb, but
AI,
but
yeah.
um then when you kept talking, I said is air like airs because this is about generations of people.
Right.
And it's
Makes
interesting
sense, 'cause
how
I didn't even think about it like that, because at first I was going to ask you to explain air, but then
Mhm.
when you said that, I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. So I'm glad that you mentioned that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's sometimes an article, things that can inspire writing, because Ron and I are both writers and authors. So sometimes it can be an article. I know an article influenced me to write my first novel. Or it can be just even a situation, something that you see, you go to Starbucks or wherever, and you're sitting there and you're looking at two people who are having a conversation or argument or whatever. And that can be the impetus or the inspiration for writing a story around it. So it just, you can never tell.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I wrote my book Twilight based on when I went through my training to be a sexual assault victims advocate, and
Mm.
just many of the things that we were learning as we went through that process. I imagined what it would be like to be in that situation. And so I wrote my book, Twilight, based on the experiences of a sexual assault victims advocate. So you never know where inspiration is going to hit. It's
That's
just
right.
good that when it came to you, that you listened and you heeded it and you created this powerful story.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, the inspiration is everywhere. You just have to be open and receptive to it.
Mhm. So
Absolutely.
when you got your book deal for your first book, did you get it for two books and then this inspiration came to you, or did you already have both books kind of in the can? How did
I did
that?
not. I did
Okay.
not. My book deal was a two-book deal.
Okay.
And all I gave my editor at the time was that I was thinking about writing this book. I had no idea of the direction that it was going to eventually take. And I sold it just really based on like that line that it was about these siblings fighting to save their ancestral home and land. And so, and then I just went from there. But no, I did not. I tend to know halfway through the writing of my book of what the next book is. So yeah, it tends to come later.
Okay.
So
So
you,
how,
oh, that's just saying you
go ahead,
on
Rhonda,
your
because I
inspiration, just based on kind of where the story is going. So, when you start to write, I know you said you weren't really sure where you were going or what, when you just had an idea at first, and this is what you do in your
Hmm. Hmm.
but now when you got ready to write, we learn a lot about different authors' writing styles. Some people are planners and some are pantsers. So in your case, do you feel that you kind of had a plan, so to speak, but you kind of let the story go where it wanted to go once you started writing?
Not at all. I am a plantser. I am both.
Okay.
I am a little bit of both.
Planter.
I am a planter. Put the two together. I am a planter. I know the end of my books first, and then I know certain plot points, certain things that I want to happen, but that's it. So once I know the end of the book, I can figure out pretty much how it needs to begin. And it doesn't really matter what the characters do on the way to the end, as long as it still ends the way that I wrote. So, and I like the freedom of being able to change my mind. I am a person who is led by the characters that live in my head. And so they do different things. I don't know if I'd ever be able to sit down and write a book that I've completely outlined. And so just because they tell me, they whisper things to me. So I'm led by them. And so as long as it ends the way that I had previously written, then that's fine. So yeah, I'm a planner. So I had no idea of the direction this book was going to take until I sat down and started writing it.
That makes sense. That's what it happens sometimes. Sometimes you kind of know where you want to go, but then you start writing and it goes in a totally different direction.
Right.
I'm with it.
That's right.
Yeah. So your the book that behind you, was that your first book?
Yes, that was my debut book. My debut
Okay.
novel
One
came
Summer
out
in
July
Savannah.
4th. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
One Summer in Savannah came out July 4th last year.
Okay. All right. And so that was the one you said was about conception from sexual assault.
One Summer in Savannah tells a story of a woman who returns home after her father falls ill, and she has a very difficult decision to make, whether or not to allow her attacker's family into her daughter's life. And what a lot of people don't know is when she moved away, that she was sexually assaulted, but that she had conceived a child from the sexual assault. And so she has moved away and has lived in this coastal town in Maine until her father grows ill, and she has to return home to kind of face her past and take care of him and help him run his bookstore. And of course, while she's there, she runs into the identical twin brother of the man who sexually assaulted her, who has also recently returned home. And when their two worlds collide, they are brought together and it's just an amazing kind of way.
Well, Rhonda McKnight just said that she purchased One Summer in Savannah on audio.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you. It would always be, it's my debut novel, so it would always be this special one for me. I mean, it was a July Target book club pick, and just having that book in Target like that just opened it up to so many readers. So I am forever grateful, and will always love that book.
Yeah. Well, one of our viewers said this is her, Veronica DeBar. She said this is her favorite place to be and discover new authors, and she gains so much knowledge.
Oh,
And
that's
that's
nice.
yeah, that's the feedback that we get from people who watch this show, because
Mhm.
we do like to have people on the show, especially when they have a new book out, because the early book sales are very important um,
Mhm.
shortly after the book is released. And then also, these are a lot of the people are people they normally would not know about. I mean,
Right.
there's so many books being released now, and it's hard to break through. It's like breaking through the noise. It's difficult to make your book stand out. And so that's part of what we do. And we'll be celebrating our fourth anniversary on the July 30th show.
Wow,
And
congratulations.
we're very excited about
Time
that.
flies. It really
Time
does.
flies. And we didn't know we were going to be doing this 4 years later.
Wow.
Yeah, we had no
Wow.
idea. And we're probably going to, we've already passed 600 guests. So we're past 650 now, Rhonda. And
Wow.
I'm thinking by the time of the festival, we'll be at 700 in
Wow.
October. 700 guests on the show and 100,000 followers on Facebook.
Very nice. That is awesome. That is amazing. Thank you. And
Yeah.
thank you for what you do. I am a former collection development librarian. And so my job at my library was to purchase all the adult print and digital titles for my library system. And as someone who knows about books and studied when new titles came out, I am here to tell you, you're absolutely right. So many titles come out every Tuesday.
Yeah.
And and then it could be the greatest book, but you know what, then guess what, next Tuesday another great book comes out, and then another one and another one. But the
Yes.
thing that I like, and I like to stress, is people discover books when they discover them. There's so much of a big push to read a book, on the Tuesday or the week that it comes out. But one of the things that I'm learning with One Summer in Savannah is it's still finding its readers, even a year later.
Mhm.
Books are going to find the people that they need to find. And that's one of the great things about what you guys do in the show, is introducing people to writers, newer writers like myself, who have, I've got 2 books out already in 2 years, but that I'm not a big name yet. And you're introducing them to me and to my books, and putting on their radar. So I appreciate the work that you guys do.
Well,
We appreciate the work that you're putting into your books because um, just based on what you said, people put so much pressure on themselves to hurry and get a lot of books out there, or let me hurry up and get my book out on this specific Tuesday because I need to compete with the people on the New York Times bestseller list. So let me hurry up and do that. And often people don't put the thought and care into their stories that they
Right.
should because they're so busy trying to get it out there. And
Mhm.
just listening to you, I can tell that you put a lot of thought into your stories. You put a lot of work into it. Not a book is, it looks like a hardback, it's a paperback, ebook,
Mhm.
audiobook. And
Mhm.
that's amazing. You're doing a lot of things that a lot of authors in their first couple of years have not had the opportunity to do.
Yeah, there's no rush. That's the thing. There's no rush to this. And I talk to a lot of wannabe writers, people that want to write every day, and I tell them, take your time, develop your story. There is no rush. You have time. As You have time. Start writing the book, but you have time. There's no rush to get it out there, to get it published. Take the time to polish it, to develop the story, to develop the characters, because that's how people are going to find you. People say, well, how do you become a best-selling author? How do you get published? Write a good book. And people are like, what do you realize? It's so simple.
is
It's
it that
such a
simple? Yes.
but write a good book. The cream
Yeah.
is going to rise to the top. People are going to discover you. And so do what you can do and control what you can control. There's so much about publishing that we have no control over. But we can
Mhm.
control the words that we write. We can control the story that we want to tell. So focus on that instead of everything else.
Right. When you were talking, I was just sitting here thinking, when we started the show, we didn't even think about Tuesday being the release date for books. We picked Tuesday because it wasn't Monday and it wasn't Wednesday. And then once we got into it, we realized this is book release day, which makes it
Mhm.
really great. But Monday's not a good day. People are just getting back into it from the weekend. And
Mhm.
Wednesday, a lot of people have commitments at church and so forth. Wednesday is one of
Mhm.
those nights. So we picked Tuesday, and which turned out to be the perfect day of the week. So
Yeah.
yeah. So now you picked topics, and this is what I like about having so many different people writing books, is you
Mhm.
pick topics that of your 2 books that are not common topics.
Mhm.
The one about One Summer in Savannah, the topic you picked, I haven't heard that plot in another book,
That's
that
right.
specific plot. There might be one, but I haven't heard about it, and I haven't had anybody talk about it on the show, and I
Mhm.
haven't read it because I'm an avid reader as well. So kudos to you. Now, is this something, that particular topic? Is that something that you encountered with? What made you decide to write about that? Having a child with someone who sexually assaulted you,
Yeah.
and
One Summer in Savannah is loosely based on a dear friend of mine and her story.
Okay.
and what she went through. And so I think that topic is something that was very important for her to be able to tell her story through me, through works. And it's proving to be that topic that people are finding that they can't identify that they've ever read in a book about. And as a collection development librarian, and publishing, when you try to publish a book, the first thing that publishers want to do is they say, what is your book like? Compare, what is a comp
Right.
to this book, comparable to this book? And I thought, what is the comp to this book? And so I went researching, and I'm a collection development librarian. I mean, I know books off the top of my head, and I could not think of any book that covered sexual conception after sexual assault.
Mm-hmm.
And I even reached out to other librarian friends of mine and was like, have you ever, known? Have you? And the truth is, it really does not exist. There was only one topic, one book that we could find, fiction.
Right.
Fiction.
Right.
I want to clarify
Right.
that in fiction, because there are
Right.
nonfiction topic books like that written for
Right.
nonfiction. But
Mm-hmm.
in fiction, no. There was one book that we found. It's about 20 years old. It's Francine Rivers, called The Atonement Child. And that's Christian fiction. And so that book is about 20 years old. Most people had never even heard of it. And so that was it. That's the only one that we could really find. And the whole idea is to highlight these topics such as conception after sexual assault, air property. It's just to raise awareness to this. I believe that you can educate using fiction.
Yes.
You can
Yeah.
educate using fiction, and
Mm-hmm.
it can be entertaining. Learning can be entertaining, but you can also learn as well. I want people to put my book down and feel like they've been entertained, that I told a great story, but they also learned something. They also learned about air property, and that is happening in the Black community today. And to be able to take that information, and if they hear it, or if they know, or if they have air property, to be able to take action to do something about it. So I really like this little niche that I seem to have fallen into with my books.
Well, did you have a third book in the works, or you going to focus on promoting these two for the time being?
I'm currently writing my third book now. It's tentatively called The Flower Farmer, because I love coming up with titles and my publisher loves to change them. So it's tentatively called The Flower Farmer. And it's another one that deals with several topics that I feel like that are somewhat unknown. And so I'm looking forward to finishing that. That book is scheduled to come out the fall of next year.
Okay. Okay. All right.
So
Well,
congratulations on that, for already having the next book in the works. We'll be looking out for it, but I definitely want to read One Summer in Savannah. Um,
Thank you.
and
it,
see, I already bought the new one. I already bought the new one. So, and I
well,
have to go
sexual
back and
assault
get the
is
first
a
one.
huge part of my platform. Like I said, my book Twilight is also about sexual assault. So bringing a voice to people who were victimized. I don't like to call them victims. I like to call them survivors, because they survived it. So but giving them that voice and letting them tell that story is very important. So I appreciate that.
Right.
Yeah. So what kind of feedback are you getting about both books, but especially the new one, since that's the one that we want to put more emphasis on for the interview.
Read reviews. I'm one of those writers that don't read reviews. So I don't know by and large. I just know based on what people tell me. And so far, it seems that people really love it. It seems to be striking a nerve with a lot of people, because, again, this is a topic that people don't know much about. I've had the feedback that I do receive is via my website, when people write me or email me via my website. And it's feedback such as, oh my goodness, I didn't know this was happening, or my family has air property, and it's always, unfortunately, it tends to be a sad story about how their family lost land, or currently is in the process of losing their land. And so the feedback has been really, really great. It's also an intergenerational family, really messy family drama. So I've had people reach out to me and like, oh, these characters are so annoying. They're, because they've made some horrible decisions. But the great thing about the book is really about the power of family. It really is. And how important that these siblings come back together to save their ancestral land and work together once again. And so that's the feedback that I've been receiving. So this is the book of my heart. And I remember I remember as a writer, I remember hearing other writers say, that's the book of my heart. And I thought, what does that mean? And I asked a writing friend of mine, and she says, if you don't know, then you haven't written the book of your heart yet. And I was about halfway through this Long After We're Gone. And I was like, okay, I get it. I get it. I get what that means. And to write a book of your heart is to completely like lose yourself into it, completely fall into it. And I fell into this book. And so as much as I like the feedback coming, it doesn't matter. No matter what people say, I am extremely proud of this book and I love it.
Yeah, well,
I'm sometimes, I mean, I do read reviews, but never let reading a review derail you from your purpose.
That's right.
yeah, that's true.
That's right.
Yeah, I read all the reviews, every single review I've ever received.
Oh, goodness. Oh, goodness. You are a strong woman.
They're almost all good for the fight. I'm an indie published author, and I write a variety of genres. I'm not in one lane. So I rarely get a negative review, and the ones that I've gotten have been stupid. Either, I mean, it'll be like my book arrived late. I mean, something like that.
Yeah.
My book, not from me, from Amazon. The book
Right.
arrived late, or it was one in particular that I had a character in one of my novels that was a rabid racist, and he used the N-word. Well, a racist would use the N-word, and this was like 3/4 of the way through into the book, which means the person who wrote the negative review had to have read 3/4 of the way before, and then that one word just upended them,
Oh,
like
goodness.
you never heard it before. So that, to me, that's stupid. But I read all of them because they're all usually good, and even the ones that aren't, they'll tell you why and to me, if it's not, it's a 4. I'd rather have a 5. So if they give me a 4 and they tell me why it's not a 5, then I'm okay with that too.
Yeah.
Well, Terah, we did put your website in the chat. There were a lot of comments since I put it in the chat, so I'm going to put it in the chat one more time in case somebody can't find it. But it is in there. Congratulations on your books. And everybody, let's make sure we get out there and support this book.
Yeah, it's been a lot of feedback. So from the viewers, which is great.
This is very great. Thank you.
So thanks for being a guest on the show. Congratulations on your books and your passion. Passion is the best in terms of writing. It makes it so much easier to write when the passion
does.
Just
yes, it does.
Okay, well, have a great evening, and thank you for joining us.
Okay, thank you so much for having me.
Okay,
Bye-bye.